Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show.
Hi, everybody. We are back. It is now definitely, this is not November. It is February still. As I said last time, it's November next month.
Oh, the same damn day.
And we are here today. We want to talk about a topic that we've addressed before. We addressed this in the summer, I believe. It was a question from a listener about getting started as a middle-aged lifter. And we answered his question kind of to him, but then also more in general. And it was a discussion we had with Diego. So you can go back to listen to that one. But today we want to address kind of this a similar topic, but definitely taking into consideration, when you're getting started, if you want to get started training, and you are an older lifter, and we don't mean 35. And we may not even mean 40.
No, we don't mean that for sure.
We don't mean that. We mean like 55, maybe 60 plus.
60, 75.
60 plus. We're talking about the older individual, he or she is not retired yet, but they're on the brink of retirement. Maybe they have retired. Their daughter or son or whatever is trying to encourage them to do some strength training, and because they're very active, but they need they need a little bit of extra in their life right now, and they enjoy they're enjoying their life after retirement, but they're looking for maybe they're looking for a little extra work on like the balance area, or they're finding that it's getting harder to get off the couch. So that individual, not the 40-year-old who emails me and say, I'm 40. And then you can read in the email the sign that goes along with that. And I want to take the computer and I want to throw it against the wall.
Yeah.
So
perceptions of age are subjective.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about that. And it's going to go in a couple different areas, because I think there's a lot to think about when you are either coaching an older lifter, and when you yourself are the older individual who's looking to strength train. Where do I begin? Who do I work with? Where do I go? So Rebecca had a client, and this is kind of the reason we wanted to talk about this was a client mentioned to her.
I had a client, and I'm going to say, Emily, it's hard for me to put an age on her, because she has like a very youthful persona. She's very active. She is a big runner and does like ridiculously long races. Like that's sort of her primary thing. And I don't think she's ever done an ultra, but she just retired this last year, and she's still doing half marathons and like running through swampy muck or orienteering in the woods for 12 hours straight kind of things, right? So she's pretty active, and she started doing strength training with me, I'm gonna say a year ago. It might be a little bit longer than that. But what happened is when she was with one of her running groups, I don't know, she was probably inadvertently bitching or moaning about something, a hill, or, how long the run was that day, or she was tired and didn't feel like it. And her friend made a comment to her about, well, you are 67 or however.
Yeah, right.
And she was talking to me about that, because she said she had a mixed reaction to that. And she sort of saw it like in two different lights. Comments about people's age along those lines. Maybe it is like a double-edged sword. Sometimes may be helpful, sometimes may be bothersome. But like she said, on the one hand, she thought that was possibly a nice reminder that she shouldn't be so hard on herself, that, she was still doing lots of things and maybe shouldn't be holding herself to the same standards of performance that she was able to achieve when she was in her 30s or 40s, and to kind of cut herself some slack, because a lot of times people are just really hard on themselves.
Absolutely.
And, you know, she probably has a bit of, you know, that streak in her personality like a lot of people do. So maybe in that case it was a helpful reminder. But on the other hand, she found it to be a little bit sus, or maybe like a little irritating, because was the person trying to imply that since she was a particular age, there were limits as to what she would be able to achieve or what she would be able to do, and sort of like pushing back against the idea of limiting someone's potential artificially, just because of an age, or a number, right? So it's like I just was saying, like, perceptions of age are relative. Different people wear different ages differently, and a lot of that has to do with how you've been using your body and living your life.
That's right.
You've gotten to that point. So there are people who are in their 30s who have led very sedentary lives, whose bodies are gonna, like, I'm going to say more decrepit than people that I work with who are in their 60s and 70s.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, it was interesting listening to her kind of try to work through how she was understanding this comment as either a positive encouragement, a nice reminder to give herself some slack, to pull back when necessary, or something that was maybe subtly insulting.
Yeah. There's so many things going through my mind right now as I'm listening to you tell that story, and I'm picturing her in my mind, you know, because I have a runner, you know, I train a woman who runs quite a bit. I don't know how many what kind of races Martha does anymore. It was Martha who we interviewed, you know, about a year ago. Yeah. But Martha runs regularly. I mean, she is, you know, her daughter runs marathons. I mean, all her children are very active, but, you know, she would never, I can't see Martha holding back on anything. She doesn't hold back, and I don't hold back on her, you know, when I train her. I train her as I would train any of my clients. We just kind of take into consideration what her program is, you know, and where her weights are and what she can do, you know. I mean, it doesn't change, but she's been very active her whole life. Sounds like with the same thing with this one.
Yeah.
And I don't find myself ever reminding Martha about her age, you know.
Right.
I think the only thing that my older clients do, and they're primarily in the morning, and they joke about it like they're the Medicare group, you know. No one in here is under the age of 55 in this gym right now, or under the age of 60. And they joke about it, but they're all so alive and active and, you know, and engaged in what they're doing that it's you forget actually how old they are, because they are just, you know, they're there and they're in the moment. But they do joke about that, and I think it makes them feel good to all be there together, you know, training together and being a part of it. I was thinking as you're talking about that, it is a double-edged sword, right? It's someone reminding you, and I find myself saying this to a lot of my older clients, you know, and I'll stop myself before I say something. I'll say, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you are 75, you know, and it's usually a reminder to them when they start to get down on themselves. That's what it is. When they feel bad for the fact that they missed a rep or they couldn't pull that weight that day, you know, and it's a reminder that you're beyond where many people are of your age. That's what it is. No one ever feels bad when I remind them how old they are, because it follows with do you know how many 73-year-olds can deadlift 330? You know, and then Manny sits back and goes, yeah, I know. Okay, whatever. So
it's a way of helping put perspective or a different frame around it. For him, a minor disappointment.
For him, it's reminding him of where he is. Some of my other clients, if I tell them, you know, look, you're 71, they're like, I know I'm 71. You know, it doesn't faze them. You know, they are okay with like holding back. They're okay with resting a little longer. They're okay with not doing too much today. I have a varied a group of older lifters, and so I have to take that into consideration when I'm training them, who I can push, who I have to pull back, and who I need to give a little bit more nudge, like, you can do more. You can do more, like, I think Deb one day was deadlifting, and she's, the deadlift has been a harder lift for her to progress with, but she's doing really well, with it. And so she pulled her weight, and she pulled the rep, and she did it for 1. And I said, God damn, Deb, you did 1 rep. You should have done 2. She goes, well, I just wanted to do 1. I said, yeah, but you had 2 in you.
Wanted to.
And that's how anybody heard me. I was like, damn it, Deb, what'd you just do? She's like, what? I said, why don't you do that for 2? No, 1 is fine. So
good today.
So there's that kind of push, you have to push some, pull back on some, nudge a little bit. But it's, I can definitely see kind of it feeling like you don't believe in me. You don't believe in my what I can do because of. And
I think, knowing the person who's making the comment helps you determine how to interpret it, for sure. Absolutely. But I think the fact obviously these are her friends that are saying this, but I think the fact that thought of was this somehow an insult creeps into a person's mind just because of the prevalence of that messaging in our culture. And that's unfortunate. Yeah.
And then it's unfortunate because it's a female. And I'm thinking of all the, how many people, tell women, you shouldn't do that. That's not, women don't need to do that. Women don't need to pick that up. Why are you strength training? Do you want to get big? Aren't you going to get bulky? And so, then you have that. You have the, you're too old, or remember your age. And then it's also, don't hurt yourself. And then it's, don't get too big. It's like, how many things can come out of one person's mouth to make you feel
how many ways can you like put a person in their place?
And then you kind of have to say, why am I friends with you? Why am I talking to you? I'm reminded of, so we just had one of our very, very, very special members at 5x3 recently passed away. It was just last Wednesday, wasn't it? And she was a force at the gym. Jan joined us, I want to say 2013. And I'll always remember the email I got from her when she emailed me for the first time. And she was a friend of Lauren's, and Lauren was a member of the gym. And Lauren's one of those who, her age, I never knew kind of how old she was. I had to eventually figure out how old she was, because she was so active, and she's been active for forever. So she was one of those, like, I had to really I had to push. I had to give her as much as hard a workout as possible, because she always wanted to do more. So Jan saw Lauren looking like really good and feeling really good and talking about this place. So she joined us, and her email was, "Hi, I'm Jan. I'm 68 years old." That's how she introduced herself. Right. And then it went on from there. So I said, yeah, sure, come on in. And I didn't know what to expect. So this woman shows up, and she's got this bleach blonde hair, and she's wearing this like leather jacket, and she's got like Doc Martens on and like jeans, and and I'm talking to her, and I found out that this is Jan. And she leaves the gym, and I turn to Diego, and I go, do you know how old she was? Do you know how old that woman was who I was just talking to? He's like, I don't know, what, 50? I said, she's 68. He was like, damn, she looks good. Yeah. And that was her. She came at 68.
I remember also with Jan being shocked when people said what her age was. But
yes,
like that was probably, I guess, like your perception of age depends on your frame of reference. That's right. And there are a lot of I would say young old people that seem to take to barbell training.
Yes.
And it, I think, helps keep them young. So,
yes.
Whereas a lot of people in the general general public who are thinking about what somebody of 68 should look or move like, they're thinking of the, what Jonathan Sullivan talks about as the sick and aging phenotype. And they expect that that is the norm. And they don't have a frame of reference to show them that actually there's a different alternative that is probably more common than they think. Because I get that a lot when I tell people, new clients, oh, I just started somebody who's 77. What? Like that.
Right. There's this shock, and it's like, there shouldn't be. I don't know why that's so just, out of this,
I think some of that too comes down to just like misunderstanding or miseducation about barbell training in general. Like when you did the thing on the radio or the television station near you, and you walked in with the training bar with the bumper plates, right? Just to have like an example deadlift, and you're carrying it in one arm, and the newscasters are falling off their chair like, oh my God, how is she doing that? You're like, it's 15 pounds.
And poor Pauline goes to pick it up, and she basically snatches it because it was so light for her. I mean, this is a woman who can deadlift 135, and she's 70, she's 78 now, and she almost snatched it off the floor because it was so light. But yeah, and I actually had to really work with Jan on stopping all the extra work that she was doing, because she started with me when she started with basic training. So she started with basically kind of my boot camp class, and she loved it. And she was still working at that time, so the evening worked better for her. And I was very limited with my hours when we first, were getting the gym going. I eventually was able to transition her to barbell training, and all those aches and pains and everything that she was having because she was pushing herself so much, constantly going harder, which for anybody, no matter what their age, eventually is going to catch up to you, right? It's like the more is better, harder is better, faster is better.
Go big or go home.
And then once she stopped all that and started to actually just limit her training to squatting and deadlifting and pressing and benching, all that went away. It all went away, and she got stronger, and definitely helped her with her when she was diagnosed with her cancer, and when she was going through her treatments after surgery. Her daughter told me she would fall. Her balance was all off because of the medications she was on, but she didn't break anything. She said, I can't believe this. And Jan was always a very lean woman, small woman. So you can imagine how much more weight she was losing. And yet she was still strong, and able to, maintain her sense of, her body even into those months. So, and she and her daughter said it actually attributes that to the strength work that she had done. So it is medicine. I mean, the barbell training is, it's not for an advanced lifter. People always think about that, well, I have to get in shape before I start using this. It's just a piece of equipment like a dumbbell or a kettlebell, but we can do so much more with the person. We can progress them slowly. We can really teach them the full body movement with this weight. And we have there's so many different specialty bars. And I've been doing my Instagram Tuesday tips on specialty bars recently, that we can make modifications to help this person, learn these movements, and, put them on the right program for them. Age is a very strange thing, because everyone kind of just looks at you, no matter what your age, and expects that you should be able to do X, Y, or Z. Oh, you're 25, you can do this. Oh, you're 35. Oh, you're 45. Ooh. And somehow it's like, I've got 45-year-olds who are out benching, out pressing my 25-year-olds, I mean, it doesn't make sense that you just have to you put a limit on someone because of their age or what they look like. It's a challenge for you as a coach to kind of sometimes, sift through that, especially if someone's been getting different messages, from outside sources, or outside individuals. I think when someone's wanting to get started, with training, strength training, they've been encouraged to seeking somebody who's going to not treat them how do I say this? Not look at their age and automatically think, well, this is the program for you. And we were
not automatically limit.
Exactly. And this is something, that we were talking about before we started this. Not limit them, because there are many people who will immediately look at an older person and limit their instruction with them, or tell them, walk them over to the machines, and yet they're saying, but I'd like to learn how to squat. And they're like, no.
Yeah. I mean, it's like with any client, right? You find out where they are, you meet them where they are, you modify where you need to. But yeah, I don't know why. I guess, sometimes a person, a trainee will come in and will have already imposed artificial limits on themselves.
Right.
That's different, right? But I think that's just a kind of a tragedy if a coach or a trainer does that to them. I think, for me, one of the things with exercise or training in particular is always the focus with strength training on what a person can do, right? And that's an approach that I think a lot of women find empowering when they're first starting out with strength training. They had no idea that their body could do some of these things. They had no idea that they were able to lift something up that was however many pounds. And it's empowering, it's exhilarating. It's really a lot of fun to understand yourself and your capabilities in the world in a different way than maybe you were raised, specifically if you're of a certain age. And so it's always that positive approach that I think is really exciting. And if a coach or a trainer comes at it from a different place of what you can't do, that's unfortunate.
That's why I think, what we're talking about, those who, those of our listeners who have maybe parents, have parents, or have older parents talking about in their 60s, 70s, and have been talking about strength training, or encourage them to look into possibly beginning a strength training program. Research, make sure that you really talk to the coach or trainer where you can, where there is one in your area, because Rebecca and I are the coaches that we don't limit our clients. We take them where they are, we meet them where they are, and then we see where their limitations might be, and then we see where their strengths are, and we work within those areas, right? I don't put a limit on any of my clients for what they can't do. I see what they can do, and then we move from there, and then we look and see the next step, and we move forward from there. If you know that barbell training is right for your, for your older parent, your older friend, help them, guide them to a place, to a coach, to a facility where they're going to get, what they need, and not limited, but, not limited because the person thinks that they can't do something or shouldn't because of their age. This is where it's really tricky.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, though, on a coach or trainer's, from a coach or trainer's perspective, some of the limits that they might prescribe to an older trainee originate from themselves, just from a lack of experience,
exactly,
or their own age. My in-laws were talking to me, and my in-laws don't do barbell training, but they have done regular strength training. Sure. They've dumbbells, kettlebells, that sort of thing, with a trainer who wasn't doing barbell stuff, but was progressively overloading in a slow, pretty conservative manner.
Yeah.
Which is great, paying attention to what, biofeedback they're getting and that sort of thing. And then they moved into a retirement community, and, the retirement community has everything. They've got the dining hall and the medical care, and they've got the arts and crafts and the golf team and the, all of these social activities and stuff. Right. And they had a trainer. that they would have come in and do exercise classes. And my mother-in-law was like, these are just not strenuous enough. And she was saying she's always this very sweet young girl, right? That kind of thing. That was their trainer. But she was, young, maybe in her, early 20s, just kind of getting started, didn't have a lot of experience working with older clients, maybe was coming from an exercise background that would not have been well suited for older individuals, like with really high rep or volume or impact or that sort of thing, and recognized that would not have been suitable for them, but didn't have anything else in her toolbox to pull out to give them that wasn't sort of very basic, not enough training stress, overly cautious. And my mother-in-law felt like she was actually she wasn't gaining strength. Possibly she was even losing some. And so, then she started investigating some other possibilities around her. And, it's like they live in South Carolina. So she's like sending me links. What do you think about this place? What do you think about this place? And, I can help shop
Sure.
for somebody local and help them, think about what questions to ask or read the trainer's bio and say, well, this is something I would ask more questions about because this type of training generally means high volume, not going to be good for you. And so a lot of times it's just inexperience on the trainer's part, fear and caution combined in a way that doesn't help an older individual gain or sometimes even maintain the strength that they have.
I like that she would recognize the fact that it wasn't enough for her, that she could do more. She didn't want to be limited by what this individual was providing for them. And that's important too. It's like if someone's asking for something, they know that they want more, then you want to help them find more. Because there are plenty of people who will put a limit on an individual's needs because based on just literally their age. Oh, you're 70. You shouldn't be there. You need to come and take this class. This is a class. You just sit down and you do dumbbell curls, and this is a class you need. But
you always use that silver sneakers approach.
True. I've watched that video.
You use that as a threat. You're like, Mom, if you're not going to lift this, I'm going to set up my silver sneakers class, and you can come in and sit in a chair and do wrist curls.
It's like, it's mind-boggling to me. Like I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm thinking of all my, my clients who deadlift and who bench and who press, and that's just what they do. It's a normal thing for someone to come in my gym, and I'm like, I'm going to teach you how to squat. And that may not be with a bar, but we're going to learn how to squat. And then from there, we're going to progress to some weight. And then from there, we're going to progress hopefully to the bar. And then from there, I have a client whose son, trained with us and has been very active in the, in doing some coaching on his own. And he brought his father to us, and he'd been bugging his dad to get started with strength training and wanted him to come and visit us and see the gym. And his father finally just threw his hands up and said, fine, I'll go. I'll go. I'll do it for a month. I'll do it for a month. I'll hurt myself. That's what he said. I'll hurt myself because I hurt myself.
And then you'll be sorry.
Exactly. Every time I go to the gym, he said, he's 68 years old. He said, I hurt myself. And then I stop. And then I go somewhere else and I work with a trainer and I hurt myself and I stop. He said, I'm just going to come, appease him. I'll hurt myself. I'll leave. And then that'll be the end of it. It'll be a year in March.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That he's still with me.
Guess that month turned into a little more.
A month turned into a little longer. He comes twice a week. The only time he's not with me is if he is traveling for work. Because even though he's a retired surgeon, he still works for his son, who has him going all over the place doing these presentations for something very specific that he's known for. But when he's home, he's with me. And when I was out sick, he sent me a video of him deadlifting at home because they have some equipment in the basement of the house. He turns to the camera and he goes, "It ain't the same." And then he keeps deadlifting again. He was in that gym on Saturday, so happy. I mean, and I was over with a client getting her set up with some chin-ups, and he comes in, gets his shoes on, gets down to the bar, and Diego's like, man, she's got you whipped. Like he saw the bar, he saw everything set up for him. He knew just what he needed to do, and this is somebody who said, I'll come in, I'll hurt myself, I'll leave, and I'll never come back again. Mm-hmm. And he said to my mother, because my mom trains, the same mornings that he does, he likes it. He feels great. Nothing hurts. And he can't believe that when he doesn't do it, he misses it. And she said, well, Emily doesn't try to hurt people. That's not our goal.
That's not the goal.
But I mean, I don't think he can believe that something as simple as he squats, he benches, he presses, he deadlifts like that twice a week, right? We alternate, and that has done so much for him, and that everything feels good, and he hasn't hurt himself. And I think that is a big, big part of this, is that people think they're going to hurt themselves, and they will hurt themselves if the program is not, and anybody will hurt themselves regardless of age, if the program is really not the best program for them, that they really can't, and that they don't, injuring themselves is too prominent in that program.
Well, we're doing anything too. Like I was just talking to someone, like a new person starting out today, who's coming off of basically like a frozen shoulder injury, which she developed from doing yard work. But either way, whether it was yard work, something that someone does in real life, or something that someone does in the gym, it pretty much always comes down to too much, too soon, too fast.
That's right.
Right. So finding the program that will meet you where you are and gradually progress you.
That's right. That's
as opposed to like throwing somebody into the fire and being like, keep up.
Right. And that's what, some programs do. And I think many people know of a program like that. And unfortunately, many of those gyms aren't all equal. Right. I mean, they're not every gym is equal. So, but I have a young woman who has been with me it'll be a year this April, and she had a frozen shoulder, and she had it for years, and she finally had surgery for it. And the beginning, it was obviously slow going, but we were able to get her to a place now where it's not so much about the shoulder, it's about making it stronger. Like making her upper body stronger. I mean, the mobility is there, and she's increased it even more so. The surgery did a good job. PT did it. She's actually was told by her surgeon to stop the physical therapy. The physical therapy was hindering her rehab, because they kept yanking on it and trying to make her gain more and more mobility. And the surgeon's like, you're where you are. Like, you may never have 100%, mobility back in that arm. Like, it's just not good. And all the yanking they're doing on you is actually making it worse and setting you back.
That is strange.
So stop it. Like, where you are is where you're going to be. And it will get better. It hasn't even been a year yet that she's had the surgery. And I think that was her biggest fear, was like getting, should she have more now? And the surgeon's like, it's great where you are. Like, but you have an autoimmune disease too. Like, all they're doing is inflaming that area, making more inflammation and making it worse. So she was happy because every time she would leave physical therapy, she was dead. And every time she left the gym, she felt great. So it's like, okay, well, let's just stop physical therapy and just continue with the strength training, and it's worlds difference, when she first came in. And so this is a woman in her 30s. Right. So I can imagine someone who's, who's older with that. I mean, my mom had a frozen shoulder. She had two, and she can't squat under the bar anymore, the straight bar. So she squats with a camber bar. But she's made more progress with this shoulder than she did the last time without the surgery, just some PT work, and then continuing with her strength training program. And now she doesn't do any physical therapy work for it. I mean, she hasn't done like 2 years, but it really was just the strength training, kind of working through that full range of motion as much as she could, and starting her slowly, and progressing her slowly like you're doing, to get her to a place where, she's pressing, she's benching, everything's, kind of normal. But it takes someone like you and me to see the potential in that individual, regardless of age. It's not an age thing. It's just, I can help you. I can work with you. These are some of your limitations. That's okay. Those are physical limitations. We all have those. We can work past those. Age-wise, you're just a person in my gym. I'm not gonna break out the,
walking around with your age as like a number on your back or
never,
whatever.
Not in my gym. And they know that. My clients know that. They know that, but not everybody is going to work with them like that. But it's unfortunate, because I think people get frustrated when they either can't find somebody who's going to help them, or they have been told over and over again that their age is a limitation.
Yeah, and I think sometimes then what ends up happening, like, a person starts to feel bad or feel like negatively, or everybody's got range of motion issues or injuries from time to time. And when you're encouraged at a certain point to think of that as being a necessary byproduct of your age, as opposed to just a temporary situation, it takes on a greater weight, because it seems to be more of a permanent condition that you're going to have to deal with from now until the end, as opposed to something that's framed for people as, that's just an injury, you'll get over it. And I think that happens a lot of times for older people too, where, a temporary inconvenience or injury is too often viewed as just the status quo or the expectation, right, or your permanent condition from now on.
Right. And I think that if an older person does hurt themselves, like that an injury does come up, the worst thing they can do is tell somebody, unless it's their coach. And if it's me, I'll say, well, yep, that happens, and we'll find an alternative to that exercise and someone else will just say, I told you.
Right.
I told you.
Yeah, I told you so. The most helpful words.
I told you so. Language. You're too old. You're too old. Why? We joke.
It can take longer. It can take longer to recover when you're older, but that's still a temporary situation, even though it's a little bit longer temporary situation.
Yes. So seeking out, I like that you've been doing your research for your mother-in-law, because it's like, helping somebody find the right person, or educating that client enough to ask the right questions, and make sure that they find the right coach, the right trainer, who's not going to limit them, and but also someone that they can say, that was too easy, or that was too hard, or I couldn't recover from that last session, because that's the feedback I need. I'm always asking people, them for the feedback. I kind of, I'll give and take. I'm watching.
I think that's not different, though, than the way you and I coach people of any age, because we have a lot of people who are, leading busy lives, traveling, work stress, family stress, and all those things are going to impact recovery. And that sort of feedback is important.
No, it's absolutely. Absolutely. I'm saying, if, for somebody who's seeking out someone, make sure that you're making sure that the coach understands that the communication that you have with them. It's not I do what you say.
Unilateral decision.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like, I just listen to you and do what you say. My client who comes twice a week, I load his bar, I add his weights, he does what I say in that sense, but he has no problem letting me know if something's bothering him. He always lets me know. My shoulder's kind of feeling a little weird today, or my knee feels straight. I need to know that, because then that makes me adjust the weight, adjust maybe the volume. Maybe he squats to a box. Maybe I have to bump the box up a little bit. That's great. But if he says it, he doesn't start complaining. It's his feedback to me. And he knows that I will take that and I will make the changes I need to make. Or I'll say, you're fine. It's not a big deal. That's cool. Or I'll say, is it really stabbing? No, it's just a little ache. I'm like, well, let me know how things go as we continue on. But then that's with anybody. Again, that's with any of our clients. But for somebody who's looking to start, who's got somebody encouraging them to do this type of training, asking, giving the feedback and making sure that the person's not limiting you, but also not training you in such a way that you leave your session totally exhausted and depleted of all your energy. That's not a sign of a good training session.
Yeah.
That's not the sign of a
sweaty or strong.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, I think we've had to educate a lot of people on that. Like, the sign of a good session is not you completely sore and walking out the door. If you're too sore, I haven't done my job right.
Yeah.
I haven't.
But that's also like biofeedback that I think a lot of companies use as a way to continue to be in somebody's head the day after a workout, right? Like, so they sell it that way.
I know.
It doesn't mean that it was a good workout, but they tell you before you leave, right? Okay, if you're sore tomorrow, that means, that doesn't mean you've gotten stronger. That means you're sore tomorrow.
Right.
But then people have it in their head, and then the next day they're thinking about, oh yeah, that was a really effective workout. I better go back and do it again.
Yeah.
Instead of recognizing that as kind of, I don't know, like a manipulation of a biological situation for ourselves.
When we tell people that they're going to be sore tomorrow, it's usually their first day with us.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't done this in a while, or they've never done this before. And we'll say, okay, just so you know, you might be sore in a couple days. It's not something you did wrong. And you need to, because people will be sore. They'll say, oh my God, yeah, the next day I thought my legs were going to fall off. And I'll say, and imagine if we had done more, because someone will leave the session going, really? That's it? I'm done? And they look like, wow, I didn't do much. Like, that wasn't a great workout, because people have that mindset of like, I have to be a sweaty mess on the floor. So we'll say, you're going to be sore. And then they come back and they're like, yeah, I could feel my legs. And like, that's only the first time, because sometimes people won't come back if they're really sore. Then you have that. You have people won't return. So if you warn them ahead of time that they might be, then they understand it's part of the process, because, there are those who, want to be sore, and you have to try to pull them off the ledge of that thinking, and those who don't ever want to be sore. And then you're like, well, I mean, sometimes your body's going to respond to something. It's okay to be sore. It's okay to feel like you did something. It's different if you're constantly sore and you're constantly in pain. Then something's wrong, right? Then something's wrong. And I have some people who never ever tell me that they're sore, and then I find out like months later. Yeah, every time I'm like, no, that's not right. You shouldn't feel like that. But my older clients usually don't hold back. They always tell me if something's bothering them.
They're not trying to maintain any kind of image.
No. And I think, I definitely, if you're considering getting started as an older client, like I love my master lifters. I'll use that term that Sully used. I love them. They're the best. They're the best to coach. They really are. They don't take themselves too seriously. They have fun with it. If they get frustrated, they don't really get frustrated with a lift. They just shrug it off. It doesn't bother them. They're there. I think that the fact that they're there and they're working and they feel good and they can tell the difference it makes in their daily living. That's what that is.
Yeah. Their medicine.
That's what it is. Yeah. I have Jay's mom started with me back in 2017. He finally encouraged her to start, and she hasn't stopped, and she brought her friend Deb. So the two of them come together, and she's moving to Asheville.
Oh no. I'm
very sad. And she doesn't want to talk about it too much, but she's moving, and she's been the one packing a lot of the house up, because this is a house that they've been in for 30 years.
Oh, geez.
She couldn't have done that if she hadn't been doing this. And she says that there's no way I could be moving all these boxes around and packing all this stuff up and getting ready to move at like 71,
right?
If I hadn't been, training. I'm going to miss her.
I just had somebody that I was talking to recently about getting started, who's in her 50s, who had the opposite of that situation with her mom, where her mom was getting packed up to move into a different, 30 years in the same house kind of thing. And the mom kept saying, can you carry this for me? Can you lift that? And the individual kept thinking, like, I can't believe my mom can't lift these things. And I want to be strong.
Right.
I want to be able to be capable and independent,
right.
be able to do things when
I have another client. I have a couple who are in their 50s, and the wife said that exactly to me. She said, I don't want to be my mother, unable to do anything. I don't want to have that. That's not going to be me. She just had 2 knee replacements this past summer, and she's doing great. But that was a big push for her, big reason for why she's done it. She's like, I don't want to be her. I want to be active. They've got 3, older children. Her husband's very active, and he's a triathlete, and she loves this. She does it twice a week, and she said, I don't want to be her. I don't want to be that when I'm 80. I don't. And so I think that's a big, and her son got them into the training with us, gave them like kind of a 6-month, membership for the gym. And now she drops in once a week and she trains at another gym out where we're near them. It's fantastic. I mean, I'm so happy that she likes this. She likes this, and she sees the benefit. And again, it's that whole, I want to be able to, when I'm 60, when I'm 70, when I'm my mother's age, doing for myself. People are afraid of falling and breaking hips.
That's the thing that is really nice about strength training, and the thing that older individuals have a clearer view of, which is the practicality and the transferability of the strength training, the benefit of the strength training to, versus like if you're, doing a lot of, maybe group fitness classes or exercising for the purpose of, being a certain size or fitting into a certain dress. Like that doesn't, I think, carry the same long lasting benefits or even motivation, for years at a time.
Right.
As just the very practical, aspects that strength training offers in terms of your abilities and your independence, your level of independence, your capability, your resistance to injury from falls, all sorts of things that people appreciate and see more clearly as they get older.
Yeah. It's not sexy. It doesn't sell, but I try to sell it to my younger clients, why do you want to strength train? Well, it's good bone development and
your skeleton.
And I have to say,
make your bones happy.
Rebecca, I'm sitting in my office as Rebecca and I are podcasting. We're doing this obviously over Zoom. And I was sleeping in this room when I was sick, right? The week that we had that. And even after I tested positive for COVID, I still stayed in this room. I was sleeping on the floor on an air mattress. I was sick during it. How I was able to get up and off this damn air mattress multiple times, right? Rolling up is a testament to what I can do as my strength training. Because I wouldn't be able to do that if I ever had to sleep on that air mattress again. I wasn't crippled. I was, that's where the 11-year-old sleeps when she comes in when they spend the night, my niece. She just sleeps in the air mattress. She's 11. I'm 47. And I can get out.
Emily, you're saying that like 47 is that you should be able to get up off the air mattress.
Of course I should be able to get up. And when I'm 57 and I'm 67 and I'm 77, I still won't be able to get off the air mattress.
Yeah, you are.
But how many people do we know who probably couldn't get off an air mattress?
Yeah, that's true. That's sad.
Or would be crippled, by sleeping on the floor. So it's those kind of things I think about. Like, I'm sick and I can take care of myself. I don't need anybody, to help me. I can still do for myself. Those are the things that go through my head. Now, when I was 20 years old, that wasn't what I was thinking about.
No.
That's why we had to educate those 20-year-olds that it's about that. I think it is. I think more and more people, men and women of a younger age, don't, they want to do this because they don't want to be weak, right? I think they do see it as, this is something that's good for me. I enjoy it. It makes my body feel good. That's what I think really more importantly. I think they discover how much their body feels better when they start doing it. Like, things just get easier. So that's something to always think about, but trying to sell that is kind of rough. All right. I think that wraps it up for us. I think so. That's about it. This was a different talk than what we did back in the summer. So I'm glad that we did this. As always, you can reach us with any questions or comments about any of our shows. You can email me at emily@5by3.com, or you can email Rebecca at
cornerstonestrengthmaryland@gmail.com.
Thanks, everybody. We'll be back in another couple weeks, and we hope to see you then. Thanks, Rebecca.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to 5by3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5by3 training, please visit us at www.5, that's F-I-V-E, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.